Welcome to Lessons for Life. I hope you are hearing us loud and clear. We are talking about the disappearance of Cleo Smith, who disappeared and then reappeared. This is the 4-year-old girl who disappeared in Western Australia on the 16th of October, I think it was, and miraculously was discovered alive and well, apparently coming out of this abduction unscathed. Hard to believe. And on the right you can see the image of a mystery accomplice, and the facts are still emerging about this one. And I believe the young girl had said that it was a woman who had abducted her, but this man has been arrested, so it was obviously a team effort. He is being described as a loner and a bit of a weirdo, as you can imagine, and he had some kind of doll obsession. I believe his name is Terence Darren Kelly, and he's been charged with one count of forcibly taking a child under 16, and he appeared before the Carnarvon Magistrates Court and did not apply for bail. So this is one of the few stories like this that has a happy ending, in the sense that the girl has shown up alive. It obviously reminds us in the UK of Madeleine McCann, who has yet to return, and there's little hope that she ever will. But what about the other cases that we never hear about? What about the cases of Aboriginal children who go missing? And there was a whole missing generation of Aboriginal children. Did we not hear about that because they didn't fit the description of what the news values say is a story worthy talking about? I'm not sure, but thankfully this little girl has turned up alive. Philip Q saying, never a dull moment in Australia. Very good. Thanks for that, mate. Yeah. Oh man, you hope that it was nothing more than a weird doll obsession, but you have to wonder. Dadash is saying, can you hear the live? Yeah, we're hearing, everybody is hearing us loud and clear. Criminal proceedings, there was a misidentification of the subject, of the suspect. So apparently a media outlet named the wrong person as the alleged abductor, and that individual may well sue NITV News. Can you imagine being wrongly accused of one of the worst crimes imaginable, abducting a child? I somehow end up watching a lot of these catch a predator style videos where they go online and use what they call decoys to set up individuals. It's usually men who would prey on younger children, and then they set up a meeting and then they catch them in the act of intending to meet up with a child for nefarious purposes. And very often the culprit will say, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. No, it wasn't me, it was someone else. But I always wonder, would a good lawyer in that scenario be able to cite entrapment and say, yes, my client came here with the intention of meeting a 12-year-old or whatever it is, but because that didn't happen, because you set them up, is that just entrapment? I don't know how that works with law, but how else are we going to find people? How else are we going to deal with the problem of individuals who wish to capture and abuse children? I mean, I don't really encourage vigilantism. And I often find it a little bit weird that people have chosen that as their particular hill to die on, and they obsessively go online and pretend to be younger children in order to lure these criminals. But yeah, I guess it's I guess right is on their side. It just seems a very sort of dark and weird world to want to get into. Dadasha is saying sometimes it's hard for families to admit what their kids went through to save their reputation. Yeah, very sadly, sometimes when a child has been a victim of abuse, the family will feel such shame that they won't want to bring up what's happened. Yeah, it's a very difficult subject for sure. In other news, are we heading for a society with motherless babies? Artificial wombs in the future, the ability to grow children independently from their mothers is currently the stuff of science fiction. But in our increasingly transhumanist managerial world, could they one day be a horrifying feature of reality? I saw a great film the other night on Netflix, and the name escapes me. It was, in fact, a Bollywood film, but I started watching it without realizing. And the idea was this white American couple had headed to India in search of a surrogate mother because they were having difficulty conceiving, but they would be able to have a child through a surrogate mother. And of course, for the exchange of a huge sum of money, a huge amount of Indian rupees, this young aspiring actress who wanted to head to Bollywood, she would be able to have the child for the American couple and make a lot of money out of it. Of course, she'd have to give the child up when the child was born. Spoiler alert, well, I won't spoil it for you if you want to watch it, but it's an interesting delve into the topic of growing your biological child outside of your womb. And one of the plot lines was, who is the mother? Who are the parents? The biological parents who have their DNA invested in the child, or is it the mother who carried the child for 9 months, who breastfed the child, and raised him and nurtured him? And I'll let you be the judge on that one. But if we're in a scenario where children are grown not only outside of the mother's womb, but not in a womb at all, where are we heading? How far removed from nature can we get? Are we losing something? What will the child miss out on by not hearing his or her mother's heartbeat for 9 months? How different would an individual turn out if they're not carried in this mother's womb for the usual 9 months? And then again, whenever people started practicing caesarean sections, which I assume was around the time of Caesar, from whence we get the name, maybe people thought, that's not natural, that's not right, but it's an everyday occurrence now, and by the looks of it, it doesn't really do any damage, does it? Do you miss out on anything by being born from caesarean section rather than being born in the natural way? I know that line comes up in Shakespeare, doesn't it? No man born from his mother, which would indicate all men. But then technically, if you are delivered via caesarean section, then you haven't actually been born. You've been delivered if you go deep into the meaning, the root meaning of the words. And of course, when you emerge from your mother's birth canal and you're at the hospital with the doctor. Doc, is that anything to do with water? There's a lot of parallels between the sea and how we are born. Mohammed Omar is saying, who cares how anyone's born? Omar, join us on the chat. You don't even have to show your face. We'd love to have a chat with you. Just click the link. Who cares how anyone's born? Well, you're going to get bullied at school if you're the only test tube baby, aren't you? Or maybe, what if you're the only kid who's not a test tube baby? Is that where we're heading for with this? Can you see a scenario where children are grown in incubators? I mean, what's the point of why get them out? Just leave them there. They can live their whole life with a virtual reality headset on. I'm sure you know where I'm going with that. Philip Q is saying to be born by a mother or to not to be born by a mother. That is the question. Yeah, keep in the Shakespeare theme. He was very clever, wasn't he, Shakespeare? I never appreciated Shakespeare at the time, by which, of course, I mean when I was in years 10 and 11 of being forced to read him. But he was a genius. He was ahead of his time. And I wonder if he copied his ideas from anyone else. Philip Q, you're welcome to get on the audio as well if you want. If you want to click the link, I'd love to have a chat with you. You've been a long time contributor in the comments section. I'm saying Mr. Bean was not born from a woman. He fell from the sky in the beginning of each episode. Yeah, do you remember the music? It was kind of religious type music when Mr. Bean beamed down, seemingly from heaven. I wonder what the symbolism behind that was from Rowan Atkinson, great comedy genius. Saw a funny interview with him recently when he was saying that often he goes out and he gets recognised, but the worst thing is when he sort of almost gets recognised and people aren't quite sure who he is. And he was saying that some guy up in Newcastle was saying, I can't do the accent, but something like, why, hey man, you look a lot like that Mr. Bean. And of course, Rowan Atkinson was saying, yes, well, I am the actor that plays Mr. Bean. And he didn't believe him. What a great idea that was, though, Mr. Bean. So translatable, you know, almost a mime character, almost a mute. I know he sort of says, boom. That's about all he manages to utter. And Rowan Atkinson must have made millions by selling the rights to his videos worldwide. Yeah, thanks for the memories, Mohammed Omar. Mr. Bean, falling from the sky. Talking of falling from the sky, I mean, you've segued excellently there, or did I plant it in your mind? What about this falling from the sky? A meteor. Could an asteroid the size of the Eiffel Tower be heading towards Earth? NASA warns the asteroid is set to fly by Earth at a distance of 3.9 million kilometers, which is greater than 10 times that between us and the moon. Oh, well, it's not that close then. It will come close to the Earth on the 11th of December. Is that the shortest day of the year? Something around that time. Okay, so that's not much of a close shave, but if there are asteroids out there the size of the Eiffel Tower, it can't be long. I mean, it's only a mathematical certainty, isn't it? Before one of them collides into us. And it didn't take a very big asteroid to wipe out the dinosaurs, did it? And the cloud of dust that went up in the air and caused a change in the weather conditions. Do you think that's what could wipe us out? If we're all panicking about how many plastic bags we buy or don't buy when we go to Tesco's, or how many miles we drive in our petrol guzzling 4x4s or diesel vehicle or whatever it is, if we're all panicking about that to avoid a cataclysmic change in the climate, that'll all have been a bit of a waste, won't it? If one of these comes and wipes us out in an instant. Can we prepare for an asteroid collision? What can you do? Should we all be walking around with a hard hat on? Careful how you say that. Yeah, I used to be fascinated about the dinosaurs and how they died out. I don't know for sure, actually, if it was an asteroid that killed them. I know that's only one of the theories. Philip Q is suggesting it's about time that we build a base on the moon. Philip Q. Would that be the first time? Some people suggest that the moon already is some kind of a base and there are people or things living inside of it. Hollow moon theory. And if you grew up in the 80s, I'm not talking about the Clangers, although that was a great animated series. These sort of weird creatures that communicated by a form of whistling. Philip Q says, I read that CO2 was higher in the dinosaur time than now. Yeah, maybe that's how they died out. Maybe the dinosaurs drove too many cars. I don't know. Yeah, like, I get that we should look after the environment. We keep coming back to this. I'm not saying go out and use as many plastic bags as you can, but the climate may well change. We need a plan B and a plan C. And I know they say there's no planet B. Well, there could be. We could go and live on the moon, although the moon is smaller than Earth. I think it's about a third of the size. And you all would be bouncing around and, jumping 3 times as high as you normally can, because we'd weigh a lot less, which is why on the footage of the moon landing, they were all jumping about really, really high. And Muhammad Omar is saying, if the moon is a reflection of the sun, how did people land on light? Please explain. Well, the moon isn't a reflection of the sun, but it reflects the sun's light. Is that what you're getting at? I mean, it reflects the sun's light some of the time when we can see it. When there's a new moon, that's when you don't see the moon, and then you wait for the visibility of the little crescent moon, the croissant, as they say en français, the hilal bil arabi, the new month, the new moon starts a new month. And I'm very aware that our solar system seems to be just very slightly out of sync, out of kilter. Because here in the West, we have the solar calendar, and 365 days is roughly how long it takes the sun, takes the Earth to orbit the sun. Okay, that's a year. But then you need that leap year every 4 years to make up for the fact that it's not exactly right, is it? And then if you go by the moon, 12 months in a lunar year makes sense. And it almost coincides with the solar year, but it just misses it by 10 days, which is why the Islamic calendar is out of sync with the Western calendar and is shorter by 10 days every year. And you would think that if everything was created in perfect harmony, these things would be completely in sync with each other, wouldn't they? And the 365 days of the year is so close to the 360, coincidence or not, degrees in this perfect circle. I mean, someone decided that there were 360 degrees in a circle, but they decided that because that is the number that works. And if you add 3, 6, and 0, you get 9. And if you half 360, you get 180. And if you add 1 and 8, you get 9. And if you divide 180 by 2, you get 90. 90 equals 9, so on and so on. Goes all the way down to 45. 4 and 5 equals 9. You would think that our solar system, in the perfect wisdom in which it was created, together. But the fact that they so nearly do makes me think once upon a time all these things were in sync, and now they're not, because maybe some cataclysmic event, maybe an asteroid collided with the Earth or collided with something and threw us all out of sync. And Philip Q obviously pays close attention to this channel because he's saying October 8, which is now the 10th month, December 10, which is now the 12th month. Yes, that's right. October used to be the 8th month of the year because the year used to begin in March, in spring, when new life is starting, where most calendars around the world begin. Nowruz, the Iranian New Year, begins in March on the 20th, if I'm not mistaken. And Easter happens in spring, new life, and Jesus coming back to life, if he did die at all, but certainly conquering the cross. They crucified him not. But yeah, we've ended up with December being the 12th month of the year because someone, the Vatican Council, around the year 1100 something or other, they decided to make January, named after a two-faced goddess, if I'm not mistaken, Janus. January became the start of the year. Why? We don't know. Maybe we could find out. That's your homework, Philip Q. Why did the Vatican decide that January would be the start of the year? We know that Christmas coincided with Yule, the winter festival, and all that went with that. But why did they decide to alter the calendar? And of course, we go by the Gregorian calendar these days, but I think you find the best calendar is the Julian calendar. And this is why you get differences between East and West. And in Russia, for example, the October Revolution didn't happen in October at all, but we call it the October Revolution. So yeah, maybe some great cataclysmic event threw us out of kilter. NASA is warning us. And what does NASA mean in Hebrew? I believe it means something like forgetfulness. And even in Arabic, Nisan is one of the months in Arabic. Could that be January? Nisan. What month is Nisan in Arabic? Maybe Dardasha can tell us. But also Nisan could mean forgetfulness or going to sleep. Nisan, feeling sleepy. I'll have to brush up on my Arabic, but yeah, a lot of conspiracy theorists like to question what NASA means in Hebrew. And one more story for you. What about this? Could this be a look at the future? Is it just a tool or something more sinister? These are robots roaming the streets of Singapore looking to get rid of antisocial behaviour. Meet Xavier, the antisocial behaviour robot, on patrol in Singapore. Is Singapore where chewing gum is illegal, where they're very keen on keeping the streets clean? Am I right about that? I wonder why. And would you take orders from a robot? I mean, right, the way we're going, robots are going to rule our lives, and we're going to turn into robots. Individuals who like to go on TikTok do these challenges where some kind of robotic, automated voice tells them what to do, and they just do it like they're following orders from a sergeant. Omar is asking, why does the day begin at exactly midnight? How did they know this before clocks and time, etc.? Yeah, Greenwich Mean Time. And if you look at the world, isn't it a coincidence that London is right in the middle and the Greenwich Meridian runs all the way down the centre of the earth there? And you're either ahead of GMT or you're behind of GMT. And we're back on GMT now that the clocks have gone back. They fall back in the autumn. Look, you're saying before clock solar time ruled. Yeah, they say that the British summertime is to do with daylight saving hours. And I saw a funny quote recently, and it was said to be a remark made by a Native American who said that only the government would think you could chop a foot off the top of a blanket, sew it onto the bottom of it, and believe that you've now got a longer blanket. Yeah, the sun comes up when the sun comes up. Whether we call that 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, that's just the sun coming up. And that's going to happen every day until you know when it's time for an extinction without the rebellion. Age Case is saying peace all, and peace be with you also. And Philip Q is saying, yes, the war over time. I don't know if that's the war over time or the war over time. Before a mean time in America, all of the trains would arrive at different times than the local time. Okay, I see what you mean. Yeah, so as the continent of North America grew into a federation, the United States, because it's so huge, they needed different time zones. And if you live and interact and work as a community in a locality, then you only really need to know the time where you are. And some people are in touch with that time, and they wake up when the sun comes up, regardless of what the clock says. And farming communities are like this. Farmers have to get up early in the morning, and they're going to do that whether you call it 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock, or 4 o'clock. So yeah, I understand why we do the whole clock moving forward. I actually like it. I actually like it as a little bit of a ritual. I remember when I was young, my mum got given this clock as a gift, and it was a radio controlled clock, and it would always tell the right time no matter what, GMT, BST. And of course, when the clocks went forward or went back, it would say the right time in the morning. And we always wondered, oh, how does it do that? What happens? Does it stop for an hour and wait? Does it just move back? And one night we decided we would stay up and watch the clock. And lo and behold, at around 2 in the morning, someone came down the chimney and opened the clock and moved set the time by hand. It was amazing. Good times. Yeah, this could be a look at the future, my friends. Robots on the street telling you to pick your litter up, telling you to put your chewing gum in the bin, although not really in Singapore, as that would be illegal. I'm not sure if that's true about Singapore. I'll have to check it out. But look, we're coming up to 33 minutes and 33 seconds. I think that's as good a time as any. This has been Lessons for Life, and we will do it all again soon. Thank you for watching. We were here, and we're gone. Latest.